Thank you for being here. I want to thank our Council President, Paul Krikorian, and Council President Pro Tem, Harris Dawson. And I also want to thank the hard work of our Planning Director, Vince Bertoni, and Principal Planner, Nick Marichucci. I'm sure I probably did not say that correctly. And Planning Commission President, Samantha Billman, who made sure that today would be possible. This was an effort underway by the time I was sworn in back in December, so I'm grateful to each of you and your colleagues for your tireless work to get us to this point. Last week, we heard the results of LAHSA's January point-in-time count, which provided a snapshot of the crisis we are facing and why we will not stop urgently moving Angelenos inside. Those numbers also underscore why we need to move just as urgently to build more housing, which is why my first executive directive focused on dramatically accelerating and lowering the cost of affordable housing. By cutting through red tape at City Hall, we have shortened the processing time from a matter of months to a matter of days. And as I talk to developers, they have been very clear that this is one of the main reasons why it's so difficult and so expensive to build in Los Angeles. The city has approved 22 projects and saved each project 6 months of processing time. So taken together, that is 1,600 units of affordable housing that will be brought online faster and at a lower cost, and we aren't stopping there. So today I will sign an ordinance that takes a major step in codifying Executive Directive 1 by exempting affordable housing and qualifying mixed income projects from the process of site plan review, and this is one of the major complaints of people who are trying to build affordable housing. Like Executive Directive number 1, this exemption will save projects 6 months of processing time. Saving time means saving money. This policy I'm signing today also encourages developers to include more affordable units in their projects. I again want to thank the Council President Pro Tem, Chair of Planning, Land Use and Management Committee, Harris Dawson, for their leadership on this and for seeing this exemption through. I know that the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing also played a key role, so I want to acknowledge them too. I look forward to working with the City Council to continue codifying the remaining elements so that we can make more housing available that meets Angelenos' needs, that is affordable, and makes Los Angeles a more affordable and livable city. I want to introduce Council President Paul Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. This is the second time in a couple of weeks that we've been together to celebrate a big step forward for the economy of Los Angeles and for moving forward our business community, and in this case, making housing more affordable for people who need it in Los Angeles. And I want to express my gratitude to you and the entire Council's gratitude to you for locking arms with us once again in taking on this really challenging issue. In the first decade that I served on the City Council, the city's population grew by almost 200,000 people. And yet in that time, we added 84,000 units of housing. So this is at the nub of why we have a housing crisis in Los Angeles, and it's a big part of our homelessness challenge as well. 60% of the renters in this city are cost burdened. They pay more than 30% of their income on their rent. And about a third of Angelenos are severely cost burdened, which means more than half of their income goes just to pay their monthly rent. And what that also means is for those Angelenos, many of them are a paycheck away from ending up on the streets. They lose their job, they have a medical crisis, or for whatever other reason. If you are severely rent burdened like that, you're at risk of becoming homeless like that. So that's why this is so important, to ensure that we have a greater affordability for all Angelenos. But it's not just an issue of homelessness prevention. This matters really to who we are as a city. How we build a sense of community in this city depends on its affordability. I want my kids to be able to live in this city and to be able to afford to live here. I want, the elderly people in Los Angeles to be able to not live in fear that they can't continue to stay in the neighborhoods that they grew up in, but they have to move elsewhere just to afford their rent. I want to make sure that our firefighters and our police officers and our teachers and our nurses have an opportunity to live in the same communities that they serve, but they can't as long as we don't have sufficient affordable housing in Los Angeles. So we have some sense of what works in creating more affordability. 5 years ago, the council enacted the Permanent Supportive Housing Ordinance. And almost as soon as that was enacted, the number of applications for permanent supportive housing projects doubled. So that was just because of alleviating some of the site plan review burdens that permanent supportive housing projects had. In my district, we're about to open a 49-unit permanent supportive housing building. That's great, but it's only 49 units. It could have been 73 units, but we lost almost 50% of the potential permanent supportive capacity of that project just because the developer wanted to avoid our burdensome, costly, long, subjective site plan review process. So by eliminating this process for affordable units, we are going to open the floodgates for projects that want to build but are afraid of having to go through the burden of site plan review. And there's representatives here today for the LA Business Council. I want to thank them, Mary Leslie and Adam Lane, for the work that they did. They did incredible work working with UCLA and CSUN to actually quantify the impacts of our discretionary approval process. And site plan review alone, they found, had a huge impact. If you waive site plan review for mixed income developments, if we had done this a few years ago, we could have created 13% more market rate units and 36% more affordable units just by waiving site plan review. So that means housing for thousands and thousands of Angelenos that we could have had, but we don't because of the burden of site plan review. So this ordinance is going to really make a big difference by waiving all affordable units from the applicability of site plan review. So no matter how many, affordable units do not count against the 50-unit threshold for site plan review. We're also encouraging mixed use development by waiving commercial square footage as well, so long as more than 50% of that square footage is used for affordable housing. So it's going to be an important step forward, and as the mayor says, we're not done there. There's many other things that the council is working on that the mayor's executive directives are going to facilitate in order to move the process forward. We have to build more, we have to build faster, we have to build cheaper, and we're going to do all of those three things. And one of the great leaders in our city in ensuring that we meet those objectives is the chair of our Planning and Land Use Management Committee, the Council President Pro Tem, my collaborator on this site plan review ordinance. I'm pleased to introduce Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson.
Thank you so much, President Krikorian and Mayor Bass. It's very exciting to be here this morning. It feels like a breath of fresh air and a new energy in our city with regard to tackling the biggest challenge of our time, with this homelessness. The mayor brought an urgency with Inside Safe to our city, and anywhere you drive in the city today, you can see places where people used to live on the street and they now don't. President Krikorian was a leader in our interim housing movement, bridge home, tiny homes, the motels, and today we celebrate streamlining of housing production in our committee. I can say, Mayor and Council President, as chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee where these disputes come to, we're very grateful that you have taken this out of the purview of the committee and made it something that is settled between builders and folks who work for the city. I just want to give a little snapshot about what this has meant just in the 8th Council District since word went out that ED1 was likely to remain a part of our city's process. We've had new starts going back to about February of this year. 94 developments have put in applications to build affordable and mixed income housing in the 8th District alone, totaling so far 4,234 units. And again, 80% of those are generated after ED1. So we see automatically that there is pent-up demand for housing among those who need to be housed, but also for building among those who build. And this is an example where the city, with some innovation and with very, very careful work by the council, by committees, and by interest groups, we've been able to put something forward that we will be able to see the difference in within 9 months. 9 months from now, there will be people turning keys in housing projects that went faster because of this process. So we're very grateful to be here and want to continue to build the next leg of the marathon to making a city, Los Angeles, a city that is free of people living on our streets.
Absolutely. Let's get started.